What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training. And today we're going to be breaking down 3 common mistakes that wide receivers will make and how you guys can avoid these mistakes against man coverage. So I hope this video helps you guys out. I hope it teaches you a few things just about how routes should be run and how you guys can create separation. But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you maybe want to get faster, you want to improve your explosiveness this offseason, but also you want to become a better route runner, better off the line, better against press, check out that very first link in the description below for our ultimate 8-week wide receiver workout plan. What you'll get access to is 8 weeks of daily wide receiver gym and on-field training exercises with sets, reps, and examples of each exercise / drill broken down. So I hope you guys could check that out. Very first link in the description below, fellas. Let's get started. So first route here is going to be a fade route against inside shade press. So obviously this is what we don't want to happen. This DB gets completely squeezed to the sideline and makes it a close to impossible throw for that QB because of how close he is to the sideline. This is exactly what I'm talking about if you're familiar with this page. So the reason why this didn't work is because when we have inside shade press, we know why is he inside shade? Because he's trying to take away the inside. He wants to stop the slant. He wants to stop the post, the dig. He wants to stop all of that. He wants to force us to the outside. So for me to be able to create separation when I have an outside route, like a fade, like maybe a comeback, like an out route, especially being past the bottom of the numbers right here, very, very wide split, I got to threaten him here. I got to threaten him where he doesn't want me to go. So this wide receiver kind of does that, right? So he attacks him, but this is the common mistake. Wide receivers operate laterally. That is something that you cannot do as a wide receiver, fellas. When you are trying to get a DB to move, you have to step into his frame. You actually have to step out, like not even necessarily into his frame, more like outside of his frame, but we got to threaten him somewhat vertically. Now, everybody will say, well, if you step into him vertically, isn't he just going to get hands on you? Yes, and he will get hands on you. A DB's always going to try to get hands on you, and man, you got to have a plan for your hands. So you got to be ready to swat his hands off. If you get him to move to the inside, to take the outside release, all you have to do is beat this outside arm. So I have a plan. I attack him off that platform. I try to get him to move. I try to get him to honor his leverage, and I attack this arm. But when you go lateral, fellas, a DB is taught to stay square as long as possible. He is not going to move unless we move. That's just fact of the matter. If I don't make it look like a fade, he's not going to think that it's a fade. No DB's just going to just jump if I take a little quick step there. So fellas, first mistake that wide receivers make is they operate behind the line of scrimmage. Let's actually get into his leverage. Let's attack that leverage. And by attacking leverage, I don't mean closing space and stepping on his toes always. I mean maybe just stepping here. Threaten him with the slant and force him to move so I don't get squeezed all the way to that sideline, which is what ends up happening right here. Let's play this thing again, full speed. So, fellas, if you're going to beat press, you got to make sure that you get into his leverage. We'll get into this second mistake after I play this thing full speed. Again, right idea, fellas. Very, very smart idea. It's the right idea, but again, it's more than just knowing what to do. You also got to know how to do it. You have to be able to do both. Now, some receivers have the opposite end of the spectrum. They constantly work drill after drill after drill with no knowledge of how to actually use it. You got to combine both to be a great wide receiver. Okay, so now he's going to be running this kind of a post out, I guess you can say. I wouldn't call it a post out. I think he just ran a post, got locked up, then flipped it into an out. But this is inside leverage, off man coverage, and he's running a post. Now, the second common mistake that wide receivers make is they round their pad level before the break point. So let's play this thing full speed. So they come off here, and before they even put their foot in the grass to cut, they start to round. So let's talk about this. So a DB in man coverage, what is he supposed to be watching? He's supposed to be watching your hips, right? That's the one, that's the cliche thing that everybody says, oh, watch the hips. The hips won't lie to you. That is what's going to tell you where the wide receiver is going to go from a DB perspective, right? So if I'm running up into a route as a wide receiver, I need to use that to my advantage. So when he's coming up into this break point here, you see how he starts to turn before he even puts that foot in the ground to cut. Guys, when you start to do this and you start to turn, that's what you call giving away your route. I've heard DBs say this in the past, talking about wide receivers, and they're like, oh, he gives away his route too much. And this is what they mean by that. You're pretty much telegraphing exactly where you are going to break by turning your pad level. So I could harp on this all day long. I could say, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you're doing this correct, you're doing that correct. But how do we actually fix that? So when you guys are running routes, you guys are doing drills, something that always helps my wide receivers and myself is think about keeping your eyes directly forward until you break off of a single step. So that's why we run routes off of steps, not yardage. So if I'm running this route, let's talk about this break. How many steps does he take on this? So he starts here. That's his first outside step right here. then he takes his second outside, then he's breaking on the third outside. So that's a pretty standard like bang 8 post. So until you hit that third outside step, you want to keep your eyes directly forward, your hips directly forward, and your shoulders directly forward. Because if all 3 of those things are committed to the fade, what do you think this DB is going to start to do? Maybe start to open up a little bit because he had the right idea. He's doing the right thing, attacking the outside shoulder of a DB and trying to slip underneath. But if I don't sell the route, fellas, and I don't know how to actually do it efficiently, I'm not going to be able to create separation. This is one of the key mistakes that guys will make. Now, another thing guys will make, like in this scenario, a mistake that they will make is that they will just try to attack the DB's leverage. Fellas, it's not about that. When he's inside shade and you attack his leverage, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to keep his leverage, just like what we were talking about on that fade clip. Off the line, I want to attack his leverage to widen him so I could run outside. I don't want to attack his leverage to widen him so I could run inside and just run right into him. I want to split him in half. I want to attack the outside shoulder. But if I don't have the right technique, I start to round my routes. I start to round my upper body and give away that body language. I will be locked up every single time. Let's play this thing again, full speed. Again, right idea by this wide receiver, but fellas, we cannot give away the routes. We cannot telegraph the move that I'm going to make. Okay, so now last clip, last mistake that wide receivers make is that they will force the release based on the route. So I'm sure you guys have probably heard, whether it's a receiver coach at school, a receiver trainer, say that every single time you run an inside route, you want to try to take an inside release. And I've been in systems where people will teach that. Like they will say, that route didn't work because you took an outside release on it. I 100% disagree. I think that if you run every route correctly, you can get separate. If you run the route correctly, you can get separation with an outside or inside release, no matter what the route is. But you have to do the technique correctly. So this situation right here, this DB is shaded to the inside a tad. We got about maybe 2 to 3 yards of space. So when we have 2 to 3 yards of space, number one is we have to close the space, but we also have to threaten inside. But he's running a dig route. Now, this is a good example of this. So he attacks him, gives him a fake inside, sells fade, slips under, and is able to make that catch. And you see not a ton of separation, but enough separation to get the ball. And that is the name of the game playing wide receiver. So let's talk about it, right? A lot of wide receivers, what they will do is if they get this coverage and they have to run a dig, they will close the gap. They'll do a little fake outside, then try to take the inside release. Now, you got to understand a DB's perspective when structuring your routes. He's inside shade because he's trying to protect the inside. That's what we've been talking about the entire video, right? So if I have to run an inside breaking route and I try to force it, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to get hands on you, reroute you to the middle of the field. And guess what? If you're running a dig from the outside and let's say maybe there's another dig from the slot receiver, or maybe he's running an out route, or maybe he's just kind of hooking up, running a pivot, whatever route that slot receiver has, whatever route the receivers on the other side of the field have, you're going to be running into them. In one-on-ones, it's cool. It don't matter because there's nobody else on the field. But fellas, in a real game scenario, you cannot force these types of routes. You cannot force these releases. You have to know this pre-snap that he is not going to give it up. Now, I'm not saying that when you attack him, he couldn't jump to the outside and take it away. Okay, fine. I could just react and take the inside release. Sometimes playing this position is about reacting. But when you see pre-snap that he's giving you a leverage, your plan needs to be to go away from the leverage. I'm not saying run away from it. I'm saying attack it, give him a little fake inside, but take what he gives you. Do not force the release. Take what he gives you to self-fade. So now everybody might say, well, he's hip to hip with you. How do you get separation on this? And that comes from the break point. You have to drop those hips. You have to throw him by. You got to be able to slip underneath. Yeah, in a perfect world, I would love to be able to just, take the outside release and restack. That's what everybody says. I just want to restack him. But if you can't, if he's playing it well, got to have a plan. You got to be able to react, fellas. This position is about reacting, understanding leverage, and having a plan, but playing fast. So let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by this wide receiver attacking this DB, closing the space, getting him to flip his hips to the fade, and then having that violent snap of his hips to get out of this route. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys as usual. And again, fellas, if you'd like an 8-week wide receiver gym and on-field workout schedule, everything wide receivers need to do in the gym and on the field, check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.